Good afternoon, everyone. It's Shamila Ramjawan coming to you from the Red Corner Chat. My guest this afternoon is Anita Shapiro, who is the founder of The Pause. And I am so excited and intrigued to hear what Anita is going to say today. Good afternoon, Anita. How are you?
Good afternoon, Shamila. Good afternoon, everybody who's watching and listening. It's nice to be here, and thank you for the opportunity.
It's only a pleasure. So before we go ahead with the conversation, which I'm sure a lot of people are going to enjoy this afternoon, do you want to tell us who is Anita Shapiro?
Okay, I'm a Cape Townian, but I was born in Namaqualand. I worked in various industries. I started off studying architecture. I traveled a bit. I worked in the film industry in Cape Town for quite a bit, a real place to learn skills. And then I started working in film education after the film industry, and I was quite involved in education until I moved on to culinary education as well. And then in I think it was end of 2014 or 2015, I was retrenched, which was quite a setback. I'd always been headhunted. I'd always gone from position to position. I never had to sort of stand with my CV in front of somebody and you know, try and find a job. And it was quite a humbling experience to go through that. But I suppose the outcome of that is that I've become an entrepreneur, and I'm starting something that's very near and dear to me, which is The Pause.
Okay, so we're going to go into The Pause just now, but I just want to find out, because when you sent your bio through, I see you mentioned curry. Are you a good cook?
Yes, I'm a good cook, and I specifically love curries. But I must say, I bow to people who make them better than I do. So curry is the one thing I get from a supplier. I have a lovely lady called Marlene Bellew, who lives in Wynberg, and she makes the most amazing curries from her home, and I order from her, and that's how I satisfy my curry cravings. I know where my strengths are, and I know when to subcontract.
So do you like it mild, medium, or hot?
Medium. I don't like it mild. It must have some bite, but I also don't want to just have a mouth that's on fire and not sort of taste or enjoy all the other flavors.
Yes, for sure. It's got to be tasty. You know, curry doesn't have to be hot to be tasty.
Yes, exactly. And I like the creamy ones.
So Anita, a very interesting, The Pause. What is The Pause all about?
Okay, so The Pause, it's the pause as in menopause. And I came upon this idea when I started going through my own menopause, and which I must say, I didn't have a bad menopause, but it did strike me that when I went to see doctors about certain symptoms I was having, that they didn't always put two and two together and say, oh, it's because you're menopausal. I was experiencing a great sort of flux in energy. I'm used to being a very high energy person, and I just suddenly found that some days I'd have no energy. And when I went to see doctors about it, nobody looked at my file and said, oh, you're 49, maybe it's linked to your hormones, maybe it's linked to menopause. I found that I found I wasn't medically kind of led through it by my practitioners that I went to see. And a lot of the information I had to kind of find on my own or find different doctors. But to me, what is more interesting around the space of menopause is not so much the physical change and symptoms that women go through, but the headspace that changes. It's the point in your life where your children have maybe left home and you suddenly have an empty nest. It's sometimes the point in life for women who haven't been working for a while decide to go back to work because the children have left home. It's sometimes a space in life where women go through divorce. It's sometimes the space in life where, because the children have left home, they might decide to move and downscale. So it's a very important phase for women where they have to almost shed the past, the identity they held in the past, which was being young, being fertile, being attractive, being a wife, being a mother. They almost shed that and have to become something different and something new. And that's a space that I find quite fascinating. So I started The Pause as a space for women to explore the space of the menopause, which, as I say, is a medical space, and there are symptoms and physical things that happen. There's also a supportive space in trying to launch your third act in life, or your next phase in life.
That is so interesting. So, so what do you do with the pause, or how is it marketed? Is it coaching sessions, or do you just speak to women? Because I know menopause affects women differently. You know, some will have the hot flashes and others won't. Some will have the headaches and some don't. Some would have the laziness and the letharginess. That's what it's called, and others don't. So you know, I mean, some are like energized bunnies, and others are not. So, what is it all about? I just want to understand, what is this concept all about, and how do you go about doing this? Because it's now business, right?
Yeah. Well, we hope so. My initial idea was to have a festival. I thought I could have a festival called The Pause, find a beautiful field somewhere, put up some tents, have food trucks and glamping, and have a bunch of speakers and service providers all around things that women would be interested in around that phase of life. You know, medical speakers, life coach, makeover kind of things, fashion shows, food, cooking, everything women would be interested, career advice, all in one sort of festival. But because of COVID, I couldn't kind of plan a festival. You know, we don't yet still know when we can actually gather safely together, and especially being a slightly older demographic. We're not like the young people who are running off and going to Africa Burn at the moment. I think older people are a bit more cautious. So because I was in lockdown and I had this idea, I thought, well, why don't I just start a chat room in the meantime on Facebook? And I'm so glad I did, because I think had I not been in lockdown with COVID and I tried to launch this festival, I think I would have failed miserably, because I wouldn't have known my market. I wouldn't have had a market. I wouldn't have had a name. But I started this chat room almost 4 months ago, and it's just taken off. We've got more than 2,700 members in the chat room already. And it's a private room, so it's only, you know, friends referring friends, and that's how the chat room has grown. And it's become this wonderful supportive space for women. And it's really given me the opportunity to get to know the topics that interest women in this age group, what they like to talk about, what they don't like to talk about, what they're shy about, what they're bold about. And it's been the most wonderful experience. And you know, new friends made, virtual friends, some of them I've met up with now. Now we can sort of go out a bit more. But that's how the pause kind of started, in this chat room on Facebook. Then in my sort of other life, I've been a volunteer in an organization where we've organized conferences and webinars. And I organized 2 webinars this year for my volunteer organization. So it became a sort of a logical next step to organize a webinar for the pause, which is what we're doing now on the 22nd of November. So for me, that's the next step, is having a webinar for the pause. And then I'm going to look at next year and see what other events we can put on the calendar. So for me, the pause is a space online where women can share and support each other and learn from each other. And then we're bringing in educational resources for events like webinars, maybe a conference, maybe a retreat, and then maybe one day a beautiful festival in a field.
So are you collaborating with anybody on this initiative?
I've got 2 partners, and I just need to say, in terms of my sort of entrepreneurial journey with this, that was to me the key thing that fell into place was meeting the right people. And if I can give any woman advice in terms of starting a business, is volunteer somewhere, meet people, and maybe find partners who you share passion with and a work ethic with, and you can collaborate with in ventures. So I have 2 partners. One is called Kim and one is called Bev, Kim Fisher and Beverly May. And so we call them our pause partners. And the nice thing is we have complementary skills. So there's some things that I do better and some things they do better, but the 3 of us together have got all the whole bunch of skills amongst us, the whole bundle together, and we're putting this kind of all together. And having a lot of fun doing it, meeting lots of people and having a lot of fun. I think one of the key insights I got from being involved with the group is, as I said, I live in Cape Town. I love swimming in the ocean. And as you know, the ocean here is quite cold, but it's become quite a trend for people to swim in cold water. I don't know if you're aware of the Wim Hof sort of movement and method, where people immerse in ice water for health reasons.
I heard about it, but please tell us about it. So, the audience will appreciate that, I'm sure.
I'm not an expert, but there are great health benefits in immersing in cold water. It sort of kickstarts your immunity. It's an anti-aging technique you can use. And a lot of people are sort of adapting this. There are Wim Hof workshops in Cape Town, but there are lots of groups that are actually now going into the ocean to immerse in cold water. And I've grown up on the coast. I love doing that. So I started joining an aquarobics class in Camps Bay in the ocean. And it made me just think about all the other tidal pools around the Cape. We've got beautiful tidal pools. So as a little offshoot of the pause, which is national, we've got members from everywhere, I've started a little group called the Octopauses. And we go swimming every Saturday at a different rock pool. And when I launched this a few weeks ago, I thought to myself, the group was smaller then, and I thought to myself, gosh, it's ice cold water at 9 o'clock on a Saturday morning, just in Cape Town, for people who would enjoy that kind of thing. And I thought, I'll be happy if I get 8 people who will, want to join me with this. And we've had 3 or 4 swims already, and we've had 25 to 35 women coming every time. And I've got 100 women on the WhatsApp group. So 100 who want to come at some stage, and 25 to 35 that pitch up to come and immerse in cold water on a Saturday. So
wow.
What I think I've learned from this is that the tidal pools are public spaces. They're always there. They're free. Anybody can go anytime. And women want to do things like that. They want to do brave things, but they don't want to do it alone. They don't, and they might not have a friend that's necessarily available or has the same interest, or to do it at that time. And I said to my partners, I think that is where our niche is with the pause, is organizing things for women that they need a little bit of the courage of the group to do. They need a partner to do it with. And I think that's what we're going to start focusing on, doing the things that women always wish they could do or wanted to do, but just haven't done up until now because they've been held back by family or not having the right opportunity, or maybe a husband that doesn't want to. And I think that's what we're going to sort of build the business around.
So the pause room that you have, is that predominantly just for Cape Townians?
No, it is national. We've even got some overseas members. I'd say it's maybe 60% Cape Townian. And that's only because it's a private group that started with our friends and friends of friends. So it's kind of natural. It grew from, where I am in Cape Town. But no, it is totally national and growing more and more so.
Okay, but the Octopause events are held in Cape Town, and obviously it will be held in Durban as well, but not in Johannesburg.
You can't have it in Durban. The ocean's not cold enough. So.
Do you think? I think it's cold enough. I'm sure you can start something there.
I wouldn't mind. I said to somebody from Durban in the group, I don't mind if they take the logo and the name and start a Durban group for that. So maybe that is something that can happen in future.
So in terms of the pause, how do you see this developing, and what's the next stage? How do you see it growing? I know COVID has come and affected everything and all businesses, and you started this initiative. What's your idea behind it, going forward?
I think broadly, webinars are here to stay. It's something that we came into our lives for the first time in COVID, but I think they are here to stay. I don't think we'll have as many webinars as we did outside COVID, but I think we've all come to appreciate that we can access really good speakers this way, because people don't have to travel, So I think webinars are here to stay. So I think if I look towards next year, I will probably put 1 or 2 webinars on the calendar, but I think it's time for us to kind of start meeting in person. So I think I would like to start with maybe a mini festival at some stage next year, maybe in the Winelands or somewhere, where I get a few speakers together on some topics and some sponsors involved, and have an event. And then we are going to look into a retreat of some sort for next year as well. I do have an exciting announcement. We are involved with a retreat in February in Plet next year. We are going to give away a place on this retreat. We're calling it the Fit, Fat and Fab retreat in Plettenberg Bay. We're giving away a place on the retreat as a prize to one of the people buying tickets for our upcoming webinar. So that's our first little let's say, our footsteps towards a retreat. But we're thinking of overseas retreats, maybe something like Bali. And then we're also going to start looking at products. We want to become the one-stop place for all things menopause related. And we've been having meetings with suppliers, people who make things for menopausal women, vitamin supplements, creams, gels, things that they need. And we'd like to bring all these things kind of under one umbrella, so that the pause becomes the one-stop place for everything to do with the menopause, whether it's a supplement you need, advice you need, a retreat that you need, and whether you maybe just need to reboot your life in terms of rebooting your career even. Those are all the kind of things we're looking at to put under our umbrella.
What about allergies and things? Because I'm sure before a woman or anybody for that matter takes something, they have to check with their doctors.
We won't be dispensing any pharmaceuticals, so it will be the kind of things I suppose you could buy at Dis-Chem or wellness warehouse.
Okay.
And they'll obviously come with the relevant warnings and precautions. Okay,
perfect. And then Fit, Fab, and what was it? Fit, Fat, and Fab. How did you come to that?
It was actually the lady who we were collaborating with on the retreat. It was her kind of title for it, and we just loved it because it really fits our brand very nicely. So yes, so we thought that's a great name for the retreat. Part of what we want to do is kind of rebrand menopause in a way. If you, it's one of the reasons I decided to start the pause is when I realized I was going into this space of menopause, I sort of looked ahead for myself to think, who are my role models? What does this look like? And I was kind of horrified to see that when you look at movie stars and actors and films, you've got actresses clinging to youth for as long as possible. And then you have on the other side, you've got your mature actresses, your Judi Denchs and your Maggie Smiths and your Helen Mirrens, who are grey crones on the other end. And there's just nothing in the middle. There's nothing sort of between 50 and 70. That space is very undefined. It's a space where women become almost invisible in the media. And if you go onto Google and you Google menopausal woman and you hit on the images tab and you see what you find, it is so dull and boring. And I think, and we are not dull and boring. We're at the most fit, fab, and fab space in our lives. We are colourful. We are vibrant. We are trying new things. We're being brave. But it's as if the media doesn't like women in that phase because they don't know what to do with us. We're not young and sexy and fertile anymore, but we're not the wise old crone anymore. So who and what are we? And they kind of skip over it. And that's the space we kind of want to occupy and make it a colourful, celebratory, vibrant space for women.
I think it is there. That group is there. But I think with all the Botox and fillers and plastic surgery these days, you can't identify and you can't distinguish between the different groups, right?
No, I think a 50-year-old woman looks like a well-cared-for 50-year-old woman if she's had the procedures, but she still doesn't look like a 30-year-old. And I think we need to celebrate the stages we're at. But I also think we shouldn't have any judgment in how people choose to age. I think some women do want to spend more money on how they look outwardly, and if that's important to them, it's important to me.
If they can afford it, yes.
If they can afford it, and that's absolutely fine. And somebody else might not want to and just want to celebrate every wrinkle the way it goes. And it's also absolutely fine, because I think we come from a world where what women should be is so prescribed and defined. You're always told you're too fat, you're too thin, you're too tall, you're too short, you're too bold, you're too shy. And I think we're really when you get in your 50s, you really want to be in a space where you just want to do whatever you want to do. And if you want to be wrinkly and fat and in a tracksuit at home, I think that's absolutely fine. If that's your choice and you're celebrating yourself that way. Absolutely. If you want to stay in your active wear and look tight and firm and do the Botox and the puffy lips, that's also absolutely fine if that's the way you celebrate yourself. And I think we need to move out of a total non-judgment space about how women want to be in this space for all age groups.
Absolutely. It's all about being comfortable with who you are.
Comfortable with who you are for yourself.
Yes. So, Anita, just starting your business, what challenges did you face? I know it was COVID and a whole lot of other, a stream of other things, but what were the major challenges?
I suppose, yes, it was COVID, because I kept on holding back in launching the pause on Facebook, because the conversations on Facebook were so COVID obsessed. So I kept on thinking, I can launch this little menopausal voice on Facebook, but it'll be drowned out by COVID and the lockdown, and we can't smoke and we can't drink. And you know what it was like a few months ago. There was just, so I kept on holding back and then this was the thing about, will the schools go back or not go back? And that was the whole conversation. So I kept on kind of holding back, and then I thought, just bugger this, I'm doing it now. And then I realized actually what a relief it was for many people to find a space online that wasn't COVID. I think it actually, in a way, worked in my favor. And I was actually amazed that in the group itself, COVID has never kind of been raised. It's not, and I'm glad, because it's not that I would censor any topics, but I try and keep the group kind of focused on what it is. I think it's nice to be in a space where we don't talk about the politics, not talking about COVID or the American election, and those kind of things. It's not that I've got my head in the sand about any of that. I love being involved in current affairs, but I think it's a time and a place for everything, and this group's place is to talk, women talking to women about menopause and what they're experiencing in their lives.
Do you have restrictions on the group in terms of age or who you actually allow on the group?
It is women only, but I don't have a restriction on age, because I don't think women should be in age silos. I think we should be multi-generational, and we should be all learning from each other and having role models, kind of all different ages. So I don't think the group will be very attractive to young women or very old women who kind of have moved way beyond menopause. But there's no restriction on any age group, and I'd welcome it to be a broad age range. I wish I'd been in a group like this in my 40s, and that I would have seen, in a way, what's ahead and been more prepared for it.
I think also it helps because, with other people, for example, a mother and daughter situation, the daughter might pick up something in the group and help the mother in terms of advice.
Yes. And I think, when you start experiencing menopausal symptoms, the doctors say one of the first things you should do is ask your mother at what age she went through menopause, because that will be a good indicator for you about what age you would go through menopause. But when I asked my mother, she just said she doesn't remember. And I don't actually remember my mother ever talking to me about menopause or telling me what she was experiencing. I don't know what your experience was with your mother. But it wasn't spoken about because I think it's just something that women were supposed to suffer through. And it's the kind of symptoms women don't like bringing to the fore, because they are symbols of them losing their fertility in their youth. So why would you wave a flag saying, I'm experiencing these things because it means I'm getting older? The last thing you want to do is put up a flag and say, look, I'm getting older. So I think that those conversations weren't happening.
Yes, no, I totally agree. It's very similar to menstruation. It's a taboo topic in most houses, and the same with menopause. I think even today, women don't really talk about menopause. No. And some women have a really, really hard time with it. I mean, I think I was lucky. I had some hot flushes. As I said, the fluctuating energy, a little bit of brain fog. But not anything very severe, but some women do have a really hard time. Yes, I know. I must say I've been very lucky in that I actually feel like I never experienced menopause.
Yeah.
So, everyone's different in terms of their health and what they go through. But you've come from the pause, you've done the pause room, you've done octopauses, everything is pause, menopause. Tell me about the pause Zoom. What's the intention?
Yes, so the pause Zoom is on the 22nd of November, and it's going to be a fabulous event. We don't want it to be a boring lecture-style webinar. So we've got a hostess called Kathy Specific. I don't know if you know Kathy Specific, but she's Cape Town's foremost drag queen. and she's going to be our hostess for the event. So at 12:30, Kathy Specific is going to have everybody, all the attendees in the same room, and she's going to do pre-flight checks for everybody. Yes, a bit of stand-up comedy kind of happening while everybody settles in and makes sure their links are all ready, and the sound is all right, and people are supposed to be on mute, and you know, the whole thing when you start a webinar. And then we're going to have 9 speakers, but 3 time slots. So at 1 o'clock, you'll choose between 3 speakers. And at 2 o'clock, you'll choose between 3 speakers. And at 3 o'clock, you'll choose between 3 speakers. And then at 4 o'clock, we're all going to have what we call gin o'clock with Kathy Specific again, where she's going to pour drinks on the screen. We'll all have our drinks ready and have a drink together. And that's when we're going to do the lucky draws for all the fabulous prizes we have, including the place on this retreat in Plettenberg Bay. So I'll tell you about the speakers we've got, because I'm very excited by our lineup. Are we allowed to say the F word in the red corner? The title of one of our
You're allowed to say anything, but you know, I don't have to agree or disagree, so just you can go ahead. But just beware that we might have children watching. You know, there's children on Facebook as well, and it's also going to go onto YouTube, so okay, maybe. Well, okay.
It's the title of Kagiso Msimango's new book. It's called Un-F-Word Yourself, Un-F-Word the World. It's a book she's written. And it's about her journey back from adrenal fatigue. So she suffered from adrenal fatigue and has written a book about her very alternative path in finding her way back, where she's sort of investigated all sorts of different alternative therapies. And she's going to be in conversation with her publisher, who is Melinda Ferguson. So she's one of our speakers. Then we've got Dr. Sheena Jones. I did a poll in our group for people to vote for the gynecologist that they wanted to have at the pause, and they voted for Dr. Sheena Jones. And it's going to be a sort of ask me anything kind of session, where you can basically ask a gynecologist anything. We're going to gather the questions kind of in advance in a chat room, and she'll take questions live during the webinar too, but any questions you wanted to ask a gynecologist about menopause, that'll be her session. Then one of the top issues we find for women in middle age is weight gain. It's very hard. You pick up weight and it's very hard to lose weight. And there are lots of concerns for women around hormone therapy and weight gain. So we've got a speaker, her name is Cornell Ellis, and she is we call her our weight whisperer. So she's going to talk about finding your body's innate wisdom and how to tune into your body's needs in terms of what your body is asking for when it comes to nutrition and how much you eat. You know, as the course, we're not into prescribing strict sort of diets for people. That's not kind of really what we're about. But I think there is a way to find a mind-body connection and tune into some wisdom around your body, which can help you keep your weight under control. And that's what her session is about. Then there's also a lot of interest in our group around cannabis and CBD oils and what that can do for menopausal symptoms. And it took me a long time to find a speaker on this topic, because I didn't want to find somebody who was linked to a specific brand of CBD oil, because I found the information around CBD so conflicting and very anecdotal. So I found Dr. Carmen James. She's from Durban, and she's a cannabis educator and uses CBD, prescribed CBD in her clinical practice, and got a lot of experience with that. So she's going to speak to us about cannabis and how it can be used to alleviate symptoms for women in menopause. Then we have Dr. Irina Wilkinson. She's a plastic surgeon, and she's specifically going to speak about vaginal rejuvenation, which was a topic I didn't know much about, and I was a bit hesitant to kind of introduce, because I thought it was to do with more aesthetic procedures to do with the vagina. But she explained to me there's actually so much she can do for the vagina in terms of a woman's confidence and prolonged sexual pleasure. Because as menopause happens, the walls of the vagina thin, women experience dryness, sometimes pain during sex, and they have many techniques that they can use to rejuvenate the vagina. And she's doing a session on that. because that's one of our probably more awkward sessions, call it that, we've got Kathy Specific, our hostess, who's actually going to interview Narina about that, to make it kind of a light-hearted session where women can actually feel quite comfortable to participate in and laugh and ask questions. Then we've got a psychologist, Dr. Laura Comrie. We find there are women experience depression in this time. If you've got a history of depression, it can often manifest again in menopause or come for the first time in menopause. They're experiencing empty nest, which is actually a big shift. Anxiety, insomnia. So Dr. Comrie is a psychiatrist who's going to speak about how the hormones affect the brain and sort of techniques around techniques and strategies about how to get into a better headspace around menopause, and also to distinguish between what is normal sadness and what is real depression. When do you need to go and seek help? Because I find that's a question that often gets asked in the group. I'm feeling so tired, I'm feeling so anxious about everything. Is this normal, or should I go and see somebody? She wants to sort of answer that question. Then we've got Dr. Marlene Wasserman. She's very well known as Dr. Eve. And she's going to be talking to us about women in middle age and sex. Women often complain about a lack of libido at this stage. Yes, so intimacy matters, libido matters. And then we've got Dr. Duncan Carmichael. He's an anti-aging specialist, and he's going to have a holistic view of how we age and how to age better, how to stay younger longer. But not looking at aesthetic techniques as much as supplements, your diet, health, exercise, how to reduce stress. And we're calling his session Go for Glow. How can you stay glowing as you age? And then a very important session, we've got Vanessa Hofmeyer, and she does financial literacy kind of courses for women, and is very passionate about empowering women to take charge of their financial future. I think many women in many relationships leave it up to the husband and don't always know what's going on with the finances, and don't always know even whether they are well provided for, should their partner divorce them or should he die. So she's going to sort of lead us through taking power of that part of our lives, planning for ourselves and how to have those difficult conversations, which I think is also very important. So that's our kind of lineup. Yes, I don't think I left anybody out. So you will choose 3 speakers, your top 3 interests, but after about a week after the event, we're sending a full set of recordings to every ticket holder. So they'll have access to all nine sessions, 3 live on the day and all 9 as recordings afterwards.
That's wonderful. Such an amazing lineup, and it's covering a lot of topics there. So what is the cost for this event?
It's 196 on Quicket, 196 Rand, and the tickets are available on Quicket. So if you go onto Quicket and you just search the Pause Zoom, just remember, pause as in menopause, and Zoom because it's going to be on Zoom, the Pause Zoom, you will find the tickets there, and I'd really, really appreciate everybody's support with this. It's our first little foray into hosting something for the Pause. And I really want to make it a successful, vibrant, lovely event. And there are lots of prizes to win. We've got sponsorship from Musgrave Gin. We've got Sorbet on board with some Sorbet hampers for us. Lisa King makes the most beautiful shoes and is donating some shoes to us. There's a product for menopausal women called Anara, which is an aloe-based product of products for menopausal women. We're giving some hampers of that away. OptiSmile are sponsoring us, and you can also win a copy of Kagiso's book, the one with the unmentionable title, and Dr. Carmichael's book as well. A copy of his book will also be given away. So lots of prizes to win, and if you buy a ticket, more than anything else, you qualify for our Fit, Fat and Fab retreat in Plettenberg Bay in February. So good chance of winning that too.
What date in February is that?
It is, looking at my calendar as we speak, it's the weekend of the 19th of February.
Okay, I just asked because my birthday is in Feb, so I'm definitely going to buy a ticket for the Pause Zoom, and hopefully I will win that.
And if you win, you can take a partner along at 50% of the costs. So bring your husband.
Then I'm going to find a partner. Oh, I'll just take my daughter with. Yes, for sure.
I'll find a partner in Plett.
Okay, I'll come and look for a partner in Plett. How's that?
Yeah, sounds good.
Anita, it's been such an amazing afternoon speaking to you. I mean, I could go on chatting to you, and you've just got such interesting topics and insights into menopause and women, etc. What advice would you give to a woman that's now going through menopause?
I would say to firstly, shop around for the right doctor and the right medical help. I think firstly, you need to be assessed by professionals, but find the right professionals. And there are many doctors now that specialize in it, the anti-aging doctors, and shop around until you find the right person. If you go directly to Dr. Google or directly into a chat room, you get a lot of advice and support, but it's peer support. And I think you need to start with the professionals and then experiment and see what works for you. And then also just to say, I think embrace it as a wonderful stage in life that shows you that something's changing, and it's a stage where you can start becoming more selfish, start discovering who you are again. After you've shed all the roles you've had in your past life, many women sort of move into their witchiness in that stage. Become very intuitive and go back to kind of being earthy, into their roots, discovering things again from childhood. So it's a fantastic phase of life to go into, and so don't fight it, just embrace it.
Lovely message to end the chat. How can one get hold of you?
On Facebook. So our chat room is called The Pause Chat Room. Just search for it and send me a member request, and I'll let you in. So The Pause Chat Room. Otherwise, my email address is Anita. My name just Anita @thepause.co.za. Yes, that should be adequate. You can DM me or email me.
Awesome. Anita, thank you so much for coming on board and chatting to me. So your event is on the 22nd of November?
Sunday, the 22nd of November, starting at 12:30 with pre-flight checks with Cathay Pacific.
Well, there you have it. Anybody that wants to join that chat, I think it's going to be so interesting with amazing speakers. Get your tickets on Quicket. Anita, thank you so much for coming on board and chatting, and I hope to be on that chat on that day because I think it's going to be very insightful, and I wish you all the best.
We look forward to seeing you there. Thank you so much for the opportunity, and thank you, everybody.
It's a pleasure. Take care. Bye.
Bye.